Okay, guys, so I am a big V.C. Andrews fan, and Lifetime is doing another movie based on a V.C. Andrews book. This time they are doing Heaven, the first book in the Casteel series. I'm actually about halfway through the book now. I'm not exactly sure how many books are in this series, but if I'm not mistaken, I believe Heaven was actually the last book V.C. herself wrote before she died. Um, the movie comes out sometime in July. I've already watched the trailer on YouTube. I want to be excited about the movie, but after watching the Flowers in the Attic series of movies, as well as My Sweet Audrina, between all the characters they left out of the books, parts they left out or changed from the books, I'm expecting to be disappointed. I can already tell you in the trailer, Kitty has blonde hair and Heaven has red hair, and in the book, which I'm currently reading, Kitty has red hair and Heaven has brown hair. So that's one thing right there. But so, I know that the Flowers in the Attic movies, as well as My Sweet Audrina, came out quite a while ago, but I thought for those of you who watched the movies but didn't read the books, if you guys want just a brief rundown of things that were left out of the books, characters, parts, or things that were changed, um, if you don't feel like reading the books, obviously if you plan to read the books, you're not going to want to watch this because it's definitely a spoiler. But I just thought to give you guys an idea of how much more epic the books were from the movies. So starting with My Sweet Audrina, they left out two characters. They left out the character of Billy, who was Arden's mother. She used to be a figure skater, but ended up getting some sort of infection that caused her to lose both of her legs. So in the book, Arden and his mother Billy move in with Audrina and her father Damien. Billy actually had a relationship with Damien until she died after being pushed down the stairs by Vera, Audrina's cousin slash sister. They also left out the character of Sylvia. So in the book, the baby that Audrina's mother was pregnant with actually survived. Her name was Sylvia, but she didn't come home until almost a year after she was born. Audrina kept begging her father to bring her home. Finally, he said, okay, I wanted to leave her in the facility a little longer to see if there was anything more that could be done for her, but okay, I'll bring her home. And as soon as Sylvia got out of the car, she could tell that something was mentally wrong with her. Her eyes were just sort of rolling back and forth, and she was drooling. So in the book, it was actually Sylvia who was accidentally sort of responsible for pulling the plug on Audrina's life support after the accident. Vera sort of tricked her into doing it, so I'll explain. Vera, of course, wanted to get rid of Audrina, so she tossed some of Sylvia's favorite cookies under the bed, and Sylvia, in order to reach where the cookies were, had to pull the plug. Also, for a time, Audrina actually thought that Sylvia might have been responsible for pushing Billy and her Aunt Elspeth down the stairs, but it turned out it was Vera. So, the end of the movie was more of a happy ending than it was in the book. In the book, at the end, Audrina had decided to leave Arden, leave her father and the house behind. She packed her bags, said goodbye, gets into the car, but then when she looks up at the window, she sees her sister Sylvia in the window and thinks, what will become of her if I leave? Who will take care of her? So Audrina ended up staying to take care of her sister. But it wasn't exactly a happy ending like it was in the book. So now we come to Flowers in the Attic. So the first movie, Flowers in the Attic, I thought for the most part stuck pretty closely to the book. The only small complaint I had was at the end of the movie when Kathy, Chris, and Carrie are making their escape out of the attic and the grandmother started to follow them up the stairs. That wasn't in the book. She was nowhere near when they tried to make their escape. Now let's move on to Petals in the Wind. So Petals in the Wind, the movie, starts off with Paul's funeral. So the movie skipped over Paul and Kathy's relationship. In the book, Kathy had a relationship with Dr. Paul at a very young age, and I thought that was a very pivotal part of the book, that it was basically her trying to get as far away as she could from her and Chris and what had happened. So I was disappointed that they left that out of the movie. Also, Julian Marquette's accident. In the movie, Kathy was in the car with him. In the book, she was not. It was a dancer by the name of Yvonne that he was dating. In the movie, Carrie is the one who's been writing the letters to her mother and sees her mother at a party or something, and her mother says, "You must be mistaken. I don't have a daughter." In the book, it was actually Kathy who was writing the letters to her mother. Kathy, pushing Jory in a baby stroller, actually ran into her mother on the street, and her mother denied knowing her. She would write these letters saying something about how everything you took from me, I'll take from you. Sign your 3 Dresden dolls because now Corey has died, and then sign your 2 Dresden dolls because now Carrie has died. Also, in the book, Kathy sneaks into Foxworth Hall up to her grandmother's room. Her grandmother, of course, is bedridden at this point, and Kathy whipped her grandmother. I mean, whipped her. She was sort of doing this whole thing. She was wearing one of her ballet outfits or something, dancing around the room, and whipped her grandmother out of revenge for all the punishment her grandmother, of course, had inflicted on her and her siblings. Then we come to the end of the movie, which was quite a bit different from the book. So at the end of the movie, Corinne sets fire to the bed with her mother in it with the candelabra. In the book, the fire was an accident. So Kathy at the party, I believe she had just announced to everyone that she was pregnant with Bart's child, or at least that she was Corinne's daughter. Bart didn't know that yet. And so Bart suggested they all go and talk privately in another room. There were candles going, the candles accidentally got knocked over, and the curtains caught on fire, and that's how the fire started. And so that whole scene in the movie where Chris comes in and his mother's staring in the trunk and all of that weirdness was not in the book. The movie almost made it out to be like Corinne forgot that she had kids until she saw the mementos in the trunk, and then she tried to blame it on her mother. "You made me lock them in there," when in fact in the book she wasn't remorseful at that point in time. So the house is on fire, everybody's running out of the house. Bart, realizing the grandmother is still trapped inside, runs back in to try to save her and never makes it back out, unfortunately, at which point Corinne starts screaming at Kathy, "It's all your fault," and then she's eventually hauled off in an ambulance. Then we come to If There Be Thorns, which I thought stuck for the most part pretty closely to the book. Only 2 things I had an issue with were they should have recasted the role of Corinne, as she's supposed to be older in this book, and I unfortunately thought the special effects they did to make Heather Graham look older just made her look like a burn victim. And also the scene where Kathy and her mother are trapped in the fire, and Kathy forgives her mother. In the book, Kathy didn't actually forgive her mother until she died. After she died. Then we come to the final book and movie, Seeds of Yesterday. Seeds of Yesterday, the movie, first off, they should have recasted the roles of Kathy and Chris, as they're supposed to be older in the last book, late 50s, early 60s. Those of you that read the book, if you look at the cover art, I actually thought the illustration of Kathy reminded me of an actress by the name of Allie Mills. For those of you who don't know, she was actually the mom on The Wonder Years and is currently playing Pam on The Bold and the Beautiful. So the whole time I was reading the book, that's who I pictured Kathy as. Then we come to who they left out of the book. They left out the character of Joel. So Joel was Kathy's mother's uncle, who everyone thought was dead, but had been living all this time as a monk in a monastery. So he comes into the picture, and he's got the same mindset as Malcolm. Because in the end of If There Be Thorns, Bart had come to accept his parents' relationship. So in Seeds of Yesterday, Joel sort of reignites Bart's obsession that his parents' relationship is wrong and a sin. Now, Kathy warned Bart not to trust Joel because she was concerned that Joel only came back to try to stake a claim to the Foxworth fortune, but Bart insisted, "Joel is my friend, he's done nothing but help me and guide me." And Joel was actually responsible for Jory's accident, and it was on purpose. Joel believed that being a dancer was having pride in yourself, something like that, and that wasn't appropriate. And also when Bart decided to throw that big splashy New Year's Eve party and invite everyone in town to show off, Joel was supposed to send out the invitations, and when the party came and nobody showed up, Turned out Joel intentionally never sent out the invitations because he thought that having a party and showing off like that was inappropriate. But for all of Kathy's worrying, Joel ended up, after only a couple months of being there, going back to the monastery where he eventually died. Then we come to the end of the movie where Bart and Cindy end up as a couple. They were not a couple in the book. The end of the book, Kathy doing her narration, talking about how all of her children are happy now. Jory's in a relationship with his nurse. Bart became a televangelist, and Cindy became an actress, and said that Cindy and Bart were actually getting along. They even managed to appear on TV together, shaking hands, but they were not a couple. That whole scene in the movie where Cindy comes on to Bart and says, "What? It's not like we're blood sibs like Mom and Dad." That was just disgusting, because to me the movie made it out to be that Bart and Cindy just repeat the sins of their parents. Also, a couple of blunders, I thought, in terms of the set. The exterior shot of Foxworth Hall in Seeds of Yesterday looked completely different from the exterior of the house in the first movie, Flowers in the Attic. And the attic, I thought, looked like the attic from Kathy and Chris's house in If There Be Thorns, rather than the attic from Foxworth Hall in the first movie, Flowers in the Attic. And of course, as you guys know from the movie, Bart meticulously had the house rebuilt to look exactly like Foxworth Hall did back in the day. There was actually a scene in the book where Kathy's room, the room that she's staying in, has a balcony, and she says something to Bart about, "Oh, you put a balcony on," and he says, "Yeah, you told me this room had a balcony," and she said, "Oh, it didn't have a balcony when I lived here," or something like that, and Bart was all upset. "What? You told me this room had a balcony. You know, I wanted everything to be exactly like it was. You said this room had a balcony." Something like that. So Bart was very meticulous about wanting the house to look exactly like the original. And also, the very end scene where Kathy goes up into the attic and hangs the paper flowers for Corey and Carrie and then eventually dies, I actually thought that they should have used the song Shake It Out by Florence and the Machine. If you guys haven't heard it, listen to it. I was listening to that song, and I thought that song would have fit the ending of the movie so perfectly. So, anyway, that's just a brief rundown of parts that were changed in the movie from the books, people that were left out, or things that were left out. So, to give you guys a better understanding of why I'm expected to be disappointed by Heaven, I'm still going to watch it, of course, and then I'm sure I'll have to make a video ranting about all the things wrong with the movie. But anyway, for those of you guys who watched the movies but didn't read the books, if you want a brief summary of what was left out, there you have it.